when someone challenges you, maybe at home or in the workplace, how do you interpret that? Do you perhaps interpret it as, well, obviously I've got that completely wrong and I'm useless, or, they don't respect me, they don't care about me? If any of this sounds familiar, you're not alone. I know exactly how that feels. But what if I told you that we can actually reframe any kind of situation, i.e. we can look at it in a different way. And by doing that, we can reduce the conflict, not only in our own mind, but the conflict in our relationships. So I'm going to walk you through this. I need to explain to you a little bit about how the brain works. So basically, our thoughts are there to make sense of what is happening in the outside world. So anytime you have an external trigger, your thoughts will basically make sense of that, and you'll sort of put a narrative around that. This person is challenging me because, right? So you've got a thought here. And obviously because of that thought, you might feel a certain way. So if you think that person's challenging me because, they hate me, then you might not feel too good, and therefore your behavior will follow on. More of that in a second. The important thing is that our thoughts are very much shaped by our beliefs. And most of us have core beliefs that can be quite limiting. And the reason for that is because of kind of the way the brain develops. So our brains are still developing until our mid-20s, particularly this kind of rational part. And what that means is when you go through these kind of garden variety childhood disappointments, so, being dumped by your first love, or, failing an exam, you actually don't have the emotional equipment to deal with that rationally. So the brain experiences this as disproportionately painful. And therefore it creates a fear known as a hyperinvestment to make sure that you don't do it again. And that's why we end up with a thing like fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of being wrong, fear of being right even. Now mine very much manifests as a fear of rejection, which means that this belief, is basically feeding the thought. So whenever I get a kind of interaction or external trigger, I am likely to make sense of it and interpret that as this person is rejecting me, okay? And because I feel rejected, I might be a little bit defensive, or I might reject them back. And it's not difficult to see how this can get into a kind of vicious circle, okay? So what can we do about it? Well, we can do a reframe exercise. And basically that means just choosing to look at something a little bit differently. And the easiest way to do that is really just to sort of flip the thinking 180. So whatever thought comes up, you can say, what if the absolute opposite was true? Okay, so my thought is that person has challenged me because they don't respect me. But what if the opposite was true? What if they're challenging me because they do respect me? Maybe they actually really want to see me succeed and they're trying to help me to do that. Or it might be that actually, I've interpreted it as they don't care, what I think about them. But what if the opposite was true? What if they really care what I think about them? So they're challenging me because they think I've got a low opinion of them and they want me to see it differently. Because remember, we've all got our own limiting beliefs that are driving these interactions. I think the other interesting kind of reframe is when you think to yourself, okay, well, the reason I find this person challenging is clearly because I'm a very tricky and difficult person. But what if the opposite was true? What if the reason I find this behavior challenging is because I'm so busy trying to be easygoing that I haven't really implemented any boundaries? So it's just interesting to have that question on your mind. What if the opposite was true? And that is how we reframe, i.e. look at something through a different lens. And what that means is over time, you can create the space for a different thought, i.e. a different interpretation, okay? And of course, your thoughts lead to how you feel and how you behave. So you might start behaving in a way that's more in line with how you want to behave. Now, this is not me trying to say we're just going to tell ourselves that everything's wonderful and rosy all the time, because at the end of the day, that is just another storyline, which might not be true. But what it's doing is allowing you to see that your thoughts are not incontrovertible facts, okay? And that's really important, because often we get so attached to a thought and we think we are hostage to it, and therefore we have to act out. So I kind of think of it as the sort of the Schrödinger cat example where, quantum physics tries to explain what it does, which I can't understand, but basically the cat can be alive or dead at any one point. It's the same kind of thought experiment. This thought could be true, but it could also be false. but this thought could be true and it could also be false. In which case, I probably don't need to be completely hostage to these thoughts. I can let this thought go, and then I can go and do whatever feels right to me in that moment in accordance with my needs and values. And what that allows is it allows you to, over time, if you're acting in accordance with what you truly believe, and the kind of person you want to be, is you're actually creating the space for a better belief over time. And you might find that naturally over time, your thoughts will actually start to be a little bit more positive and a little bit more compassionate. And that is all through the magic of the reframe. So I hope that's helpful. Do comment below if you've got any experience with the reframe exercise and being able to, let go of thoughts. It is quite a tricky thing to do. It took me lots of years of study to kind of get my head around this. So please do comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Take care.